My name is Lorraine Hayes, and until that Tuesday afternoon, I truly believed I had already faced the worst life could offer. At 66, I was a retired librarian living quietly in Plainfield, Illinois, a place where storms came and went, where the seasons moved in rhythm with the clock on my kitchen wall. 8 years earlier, I had lost my husband, Thomas, to a sudden heart attack. I survived the silence that followed, the kind of silence that fills every room like fog. I learned to live alone, to make tea for one, to sleep in the middle of the bed, to talk to the walls when the loneliness grew too loud. That Tuesday began like any other. I brewed my tea at 3 o'clock sharp and set the cup beside the window overlooking my rose garden. The air outside felt strange, heavy, as if the sky itself was holding its breath. The radio murmured about a storm tracking northeast, but in Illinois, storms are simply background noise. We are raised to respect them, not to fear them. Then, at 3:15, the siren screamed. That long, terrible wail that cuts through the marrow of your bones. Tornado on the ground, the announcer's voice warned, urgent and trembling. Moving toward Will County. Residents of Plainfield, take shelter immediately. My hands shook as I rushed through the house. What do you take when your whole life fits into a moment? I grabbed what I could, my wedding album from 1976 where Thomas and I were forever young, his wristwatch that still ticked faintly, my mother's hand-sewn quilt, and a small folder of insurance papers. 40 years of living, reduced to one suitcase. I stumbled down into the basement, clutching Thomas's old wool sweater to my chest. The air roared. The house groaned above me, beams twisting, glass exploding. It sounded as if the world was being torn apart, piece by piece. And then, silence. Not peace. Not calm. Just the hollow, heavy quiet that comes after destruction. When I finally pushed open the basement door, the world I knew had vanished. My kitchen table was gone.
My roof was gone.
My rose garden, 20 years of pruning and love, was nothing but splinters and mud. I fell to my knees among the wreckage, clutching that sweater like it could bring Thomas back. I cried for the first time since his funeral. When the Red Cross arrived, they spoke gently about shelters. But the idea of sleeping in a crowded gymnasium among strangers made my chest ache. I needed family. I needed my son, Michael. So I borrowed a neighbor's phone and whispered, "Son, it's Mom, my house is gone." That call, meant for comfort, would begin the hardest chapter of my life. The next morning, I packed my life into my old sedan, a single suitcase and 3 trash bags. I told myself it was temporary just until the insurance came through. The highway to Chicago was lined with broken trees and twisted metal, but the sky was blue again, almost mocking, as if nothing had happened the day before. When I reached River North, the buildings gleamed like glass giants. My son's home looked more like a magazine spread than a place to live, modern, white, cold. When Michael opened the door, my heart lifted for a moment. He had Thomas's eyes, the same calm blue that once steadied me through storms. But his expression was careful, practiced, as if he'd been preparing for this conversation. "Mom," he said, stepping aside.
Come in.
The apartment smelled like fresh paint and expensive candles. Everything was spotless. Too spotless. And then she appeared, Tessa, his wife. 32, polished, wearing a silk blouse that probably cost more than my monthly pension. She smiled, but her eyes stayed sharp. "Lorraine, how awful about your house," she said, her gaze flicking toward my trash bags by the door. I tried to sound upbeat. "It's just temporary."
I can help with meals, Lau.
"Laundry. I'll stay out of the way." Michael sat across from me, not beside me. He folded his hands like he was about to make a business decision. "Mom, Tessa, and I have been talking. We value our privacy here. This is our sanctuary." I blinked, certain I had misheard. "Michael, I lost everything yesterday. I don't need privacy, I need family." Tessa leaned forward, voice smooth but firm. "We just think you'd be more comfortable somewhere else. There's a wonderful extended stay near the Magnificent Mile. Very safe, very clean. They even have kitchenettes. How am I supposed to pay for that? I asked softly. Michael looked away. I can give you a few hundred to get started. A few hundred. That's what decades of love and sacrifice had become. I stood up, knees shaking. So that's it? Your mother doesn't belong in your sanctuary. Neither of them answered. The silence said everything. I drove away from River North with my heart heavier than the storm that destroyed my home. The city lights glittered like distant stars, but I felt invisible beneath them. That night, I parked in a dark stretch beneath the streets near Lower Wacker. I curled up in the front seat with Thomas's sweater draped over me. Every sound, a car door slamming, footsteps echoing, made me jolt awake. By the second night, I moved to a Walmart parking lot in Cicero, hoping no one would notice me. I washed my face in the fluorescent-lit bathroom and avoided the mirror. I didn't recognize the woman staring back. The tired eyes, the tangled hair, the weight of disappointment pressing on her shoulders. By the third night, the loneliness became louder than my heartbeat. That night, as I searched my purse for tissues, my fingers brushed something familiar, a faded business card, soft from years of being carried. Adrian Cole, my first love. The boy who once promised to build me a life beyond Plainfield before college pulled him away. I stared at the number, my hand trembling. Could it possibly still connect? Could he still be alive? My pride told me to let it go, but loneliness has a way of overpowering pride. So I dialed. 1 ring.
2.
Cole development. Adrian speaking. Time collapsed. That voice. I would have known it anywhere. Adrian, it's Lorraine. Lorraine Carter. There was silence, then a breath that sounded like memory. Lorraine. The words tumbled out of me like a flood. My house, the tornado. I try to stay with my son, but I don't have anywhere to go. He didn't ask for proof. He didn't hesitate. Where are you? A Walmart parking lot off Cicero Avenue. Stay there, he said, his voice steady. I'm on my way. Adrian, you don't have to. Lorraine, he interrupted softly. I've been waiting 50 years for this call. 2 hours later, a silver SUV rolled into the lot. When he stepped out, I saw the years etched into his face, but his eyes, those storm gray eyes, were the same. He tapped on my window, smiled gently. Hello, Lorraine. I wanted to apologize for the mess I was, but before I could, he said, You look beautiful. The tears came, unstoppable. He opened my door and pulled me into his arms. Come home, he whispered. Let me take care of you. And for the first time in weeks, I felt the storm inside me begin to quiet. Adrian's home was a stone house by Lake Michigan, warm and timeless. Inside, sunlight spilled across bookshelves, the smell of cedar and coffee filling the air. It didn't feel like luxury, it felt like belonging. He cooked me real food, grilled chicken, fresh bread. After days of gas station meals, I cried at the first bite. I shouldn't have called, I said quietly. He shook his head. Lorraine, you were the only chapter 1 never finished. Days turned into weeks. I read in his library, tended his small garden, and found peace in his company. Then one morning my phone rang. Michael. Mom, he said, cautious. Where are you? Maybe you could stay in our guest room after all. Tessa and I have been rethinking things. The words should have warmed me, but they didn't. They felt hollow, too late. When Michael and Tessa came to dinner, they brought candles and polished smiles. Michael spoke about insurance, business opportunities, and Adrian's company. Adrian listened politely, his expression unreadable. A week later, Adrian invited them again. After dinner, he placed his hands on the table and said, I want to discuss Lorraine and the way you've treated her. Michael's face went red. I don't understand. You do, Adrian said evenly. When she lost everything, she came to you, and you turned her away. Tessa's smile faltered. Michael stammered something about it being better that way. Adrian leaned forward. Better for whom? She slept in her car while you enjoyed your sanctuary. I swallowed hard but said nothing. Adrian wasn't done. And now suddenly you're interested in her well-being, right after meeting me and learning about my company. He paused, his voice steady as stone. Let me be clear. Lorraine doesn't need your approval or your conditions. What she needs is love. And if you can't give her that, then you have no place in her life. Michael's jaw clenched. Are you accusing me? I'm reminding you, Adrian said softly, what a son should be. I looked at Michael then, my voice shaking. The night of the tornado, I needed family. You chose yourself. The silence that followed felt heavier than the storm. Michael stood, angry, humiliated. Tessa followed, her heels echoing across the floor. The door shut behind them with finality. And, for the first time, I didn't cry. I felt free. Days later, I received an email from the Plainfield Land Trust. Redevelopment approved. Priority to displaced residents. Project overseen by Coal Redevelopment. I turned to Adrian, stunned. You didn't tell me. He smiled softly. I didn't want you to think it was pity. My company won the bid fairly, but I made sure every family who lost their home would have a right to return. Including you. Tears blurred my vision. After a lifetime apart, he was giving me back, not just love, but home. 6 months later, on a crisp October morning, we stood in his backyard overlooking the lake. The trees burned gold and crimson, the water glittering beneath the sun. We said our vows quietly, surrounded by a few friends. When Adrian kissed me, it wasn't the fire of youth, it was the warmth of belonging, of two souls finally finding rest. Michael came alone, eyes red, voice breaking. Mom.
I'm sorry.
I touched his arm gently. I forgive you, Michael. But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. Love me because I'm your mother, not because of what you think I have. He nodded, silently. Maybe, just maybe, it was a beginning. That night, Adrian and I sat on the porch, the lake shimmering like glass beneath the moon. The tornado took my house, my rose garden, my peace. I whispered. But it gave me the truth. It showed me who really loved me. And it brought me back to the man who never stopped believing in me. I looked out at the horizon, voice steady. At 66, I've learned this. You are never too old to rebuild. You are never too broken for love to find you again. So, if my story reaches you tonight, remember this. Loss may tear down walls, but sometimes it clears the ground for something stronger to rise. Now tell me, what lesson do you take from my story? And what city are you watching from?